Hey everybody, it's Katie here. Welcome to episode 7 on She's the Boss. Today I have Miss International 2024. Her name is Meagan Elieff. Again, hopefully I didn't butcher that.
No, it's perfect.
She has so much going on. On top of being Miss International 2024, she is also founder of Modern Day Wife, and we're definitely going to get into that conversation as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, Meagan.
Oh, thank you. I'm so
Awesome.
excited to be here with all of you
We
can dive into everything.
Your entire life is just super busy, it sounds like.
Yes, it just got a lot busier.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can get into that. You never know what life's going to throw you.
Oh,
Thank you,
gosh,
Hurricane
yes.
Helen, right?
Exactly.
Anyways, we'll go over that, I'm sure. But
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. So if you want to take a second, kind of introduce yourself to the audience as well, you're more than welcome to do that. And we can definitely dive into your adventures.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, I'm Meagan Elieff. Yes, I run a female networking business called Modern Day Wife. I am Mrs. International, which is a pageant for married women. So we can go over all of that, which is really exciting, and how I got into that. I also am Canadian. I grew up in Barrie, Ontario. So if anyone here is from that small town, that's definitely where I spent my life until I was about 21.
Nice.
And then I went off to the big cities and figured out that there was other places outside of Ontario too. But I'm just excited to share everything with you about business, family life, relationships, you name it, we can talk about it.
Amazing. So let's just get started now. I definitely want to go into the Miss International stuff. But before that, so I know you were mentioning previously that you came from like the corporate world.
Yes.
So what were you doing then? And like, how did you transition and change your life in a complete, because I'm thinking about pageants and I'm thinking about the corporate world, and I'm like, okay, there's like not much of a mix there. So how did you get started? But where were you before that?
It's a great question. It's definitely a long story, but for me, I was always someone who was really a go-getter.
Right.
I feel like you were that person too.
Sure. Oh yeah.
When I was little, I loved sketching fashion designs, and I would make my mom buy me notebooks to draw. And, I always was a big thinker, but I grew up in a small town. I wasn't raised with a lot of money. I didn't go to university because I couldn't afford it. So I picked to go to college.
Right.
So long story short, I took public relations in school.
Okay.
I did that for a little bit. And then I ended up going to Georgian College for tourism. And so part of that experience was you got to do a 6-month internship.
Interesting.
And so I was that crazy person that no one believed in. And I was like, I'm going to London, England for my internship. And everyone's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Like, who's going to say yes to you?
Oh my gosh.
No, this is actually a true story.
Right.
And I remember my mom that Christmas got me this painting of Paris because she was, when you go to London, like maybe you'll go to Paris. And my parents were really cheesy and used to write me little letters about dreams and poems at Christmas.
I love that.
So it was my mom and my dad basically, and a guidance counselor who helped me. And they're like, okay, we're going to make this happen for you. If you want to go, to Europe and London and do that, let's do it. So long story short, I'll get to the corporateness of this, but at the time it was interesting because sometimes in life there's decisions you have to make.
Yes.
So I remember I had my application in to go for an internship with Fairmont in London, England, but also Fairmont in Whistler. And they said to me, well, you can only have one application in.
Oh,
so you have to choose.
To decide. Oh.
And I was like, am I going to take the job in Whistler, which I had been offered, or am I going to wait and see if I get the London job?
Right.
So that was a challenge, but I made the decision and I withdrew from Whistler and went all in on London.
Nice.
So that's actually how I got into corporate, because I took the job with Fairmont Hotels in London, England. I worked there serving afternoon tea. It was so hard. And then, it was crazy. Like the whole 3-piece suit and everything.
Just serving tea. And it was.
Yeah, to high end, like Victoria Beckham. I got to serve her peppermint tea. Like the rich and royals. Because, in London, they do the whole tea service. And it's this big ordeal. So that was interesting. But that's how I got my foot in the door with Fairmont. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just thought, I want to be in sales. Right. Because when I did the internship, I always looked at the girls who were on the sales team and they were dressed so perfectly in their suits and they had status, and why don't I want to be that?
I want that.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move back to Canada after this internship and I'm going to get a job in sales.
Right.
And I'm going to move to Vancouver because Barrie to me was boring.
And it's Barrie. No offense, Barrie lovers, but it's Barrie.
You're like, yeah. no comment. Right. And so when I moved back to Barrie and I had this great idea of moving to Vancouver for my dream job in sales, I applied at Fairmont and they said to me, well, you don't even live in British Columbia. We're not hiring you for sales. The only job we'll take you for is making coffee.
Oh gosh. So
I said, okay. So I made coffee.
Yep.
I started as a barista so I can pull an espresso shot, but I'm not good at making coffee. And I was just strategic. I was smart. So I always made relationships wherever I went.
For sure.
So I made a relationship with the general manager of the London hotel. So that's actually how I got the connection to the Vancouver hotel was through him. So I was always about like, okay, who can
constant networking. Yep.
Yes. And so when I moved there, I said to myself, I need to get out of making coffee. Like that is not going to be what I'm doing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's way off from
that's
the sales
not within
goal.
Your vision anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I volunteered on a project because at the time the head chef wanted to create a mini Italy. Have you heard of Italy in New York before? It's like the big
no, I haven't.
Okay, so it's this Italian grocer.
Okay.
And they have it all across North America and it has like all high-end Italian oils and pastas and different things.
Okay.
And so he thought that the hotel would have this amazing supermarket in the bottom of it and that locals would shop it and the residents would shop it too.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I can get with that. Let me volunteer on this project. So I did that. Fast forward, they offered me a job to manage it, which was great. The long and short of it is that no one really was that interested, unfortunately, in purchasing those types of goods.
Got it.
So I convinced them with some other people working, with me that we should start a gift shop. So then that's actually how I got into my corporate career was I ended up being a buyer for Fairmont Hotels and Resorts for 5 years.
Nice.
Running this gift shop.
Interesting.
Yes.
So your kind of branch off idea really kind of hit the floor running and it was successful.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And then to answer your question about how did I go from corporate to entrepreneur was at the time I was doing a personal development course on the side that encouraged me to start a project in my community. So that's when I started my first women's networking group. So I did that like on the side of working a 9 to 5.
It's really interesting because I've had quite a few ladies on the show that are really big on, mindset and shifting that perspective, personal growth, personal development, and knowing that you had this whole vision for yourself. And then through the process of personal development, you're like, actually, let me do something else. And now you're thriving. Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how that's so important for people now. And I find that a lot of ladies kind of don't dive into that, whether they're afraid to, or like one decision can change everything in every aspect of their life. So where was your mindset at where you finally made that decision to change? And as you're going through that personal development, you said, I'm going to go and start this community up. Like, where was the mindset shift?
I think for me, we're all scared to do stuff.
I'm terrified.
Right? I mean, even this week, okay. Right? Like some days you're like, no, it's not working for me. I don't want to do it. But I think, I was always creative. So I pushed myself. And what helped was I had a friend who pushed me to do the course. Awesome. So sometimes, even though you don't want to listen to your friends, but it's sometimes necessary to take advice from other people and try something different. If you just do the same thing all the time, that's when change doesn't happen, or you don't meet the people that are going to help you do things. So I also, I look to always see what are other people doing? What are other successful people doing? Right. I mean, Elena Cardone. I'm sure maybe you've mentioned her on your show before. If not, but she is someone I look up to. So I'm like, what is she doing? You have to say yes to different things. So I think I was at that time in my life where I was willing to go for it, try it, see how it goes. Maybe it's not going to land. Maybe it's not going to work out. But being willing to experience that. It's kind of the same with the pageant. I mean, I'd never done a pageant, put it off, decided to say yes. And then once you commit, you have to show up and do it. And then look what happened. I ended up winning. And then all these other doors open. Yes. Right. So even when you don't want to do it, sometimes you have to be willing to go for it. If you want to have a bigger purpose, it's really up to you.
Yeah.
But it's me and you, we're sitting here with the same opportunity as everyone else. It's whether or not we decided to actually take action
and just take a step. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in the process of going through the mindset change, you're like, okay, I'm going to create some sort of like women's community. Why did you go with that plan specifically? Was it because of the friend of, did they help you guide you with that? Or did you have it in your head where this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
And I had no other options.
Yeah. Great question. So the first company that I started was called Project You.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was my creative, it was my idea. No one told me to do it. I was at that time, you always kind of create what it is that you need.
Yep.
I was feeling maybe not as confident, a little insecure. How do I grow and expand? So that community was more based on that at the time, because that's where I was at in my life.
Okay.
Then things changed. I ended up selling that business. And then when I started the Modern Day Wife, which is the company I now own and run, again, it was, where was I at in my life? I wasn't married yet. I wanted to be married. I was dating who's now my husband, but he was also terminally ill. So that was very traumatic. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, there's so much that I'm dealing with. How do women actually do life?
Do this, yeah.
How are you balancing being a mom, married, having activities, a social life? So that's how Modern Day Wife started. So I think it comes down to, in my opinion, a lot of the times where an individual is at and what they need at the time. Usually you start a business for what you need.
Yeah. And then see how many others you can help that are in need.
That's right.
With that one specific thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned that obviously you had that Project You company and you sold that business. So you sold it before you were 30. And there's not many people out there who have a business and sell it and become successful from that as well. So what was the process of like selling that business and kind of going for, further greatness?
Yeah. So, I mean, at that time, which is a really interesting story. It's not like I sold it for millions of dollars or thousands of dollars, you guys, but I wanted to recoup what I put into it.
Of course.
And it was a great brand. And so I sold it to a now good friend of mine who also works in Modern Day Wife.
There we go.
But the coolest thing is I stayed on to help her for about a year and mentored her. And it was her choice. Like, I didn't say to her, you need to work within Modern Day Wife, but she liked the aspect of working with the team. And now she's thriving and doing amazing. So she didn't end up doing anything with Project You, but what Project You did changed her life.
Her life, yeah.
She became more confident. She realized she could learn to sell. She could run a company. She could run a business. So she essentially paid for a life upgrade in a way, because it took her in
her
a
own
whole
personal development.
That's right. It took her in her own direction.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that, she works with me because I love her and she's amazing.
That's awesome.
But you never know. At the time we weren't that close. We became close through that mentorship.
Right.
We had been friends and it just worked out that way, but you never know.
Stars just aligned.
Yeah. And that's perfectly. Also like, it's so true. That's another thing too, when you're selling your business. I mean, you think maybe no one's going to buy it, or you think that there's no answer, or you think it's not going to work out, but there's always a solution.
Yep.
Always.
You
just have to find it.
Yeah.
Create it.
Say. So going back to the transition from doing like within the corporate world and going into being an entrepreneur, what challenges did you face at that time?
Well, I think it's interesting because you don't have money. Right? It's not that you start with this thriving business. Right. I mean, for Modern Day Wife, the first booth that we sold was, I think, $250, $350.
Okay.
So you start somewhere, right? And now the lowest package is $2,000.
Right.
So I think there's also that aspect that people don't see is sacrifice. Yes. I mean, 3.5 years ago, we were working day and night. I mean, I was getting married and working right up until my wedding. Right. My business partner was having a baby and working on Modern Day Wife, emailing me like, I'm going into labor, she's feeling guilty. In my mind, I thought to myself, are you crazy? Like, obviously I'm not mad that you're having a baby.
Right. Hold off for the baby for a little bit.
But I think people don't see sometimes, and that's why I have so much gratitude for people that run a successful business, because they don't see the strain, whether it's on the marriage, right? Because if you're working all the time, you're not deeply connecting with your spouse. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. So there is a lot of sacrifice on your own health or your marriage or
and your
your
own
kids,
mental health too.
everything,
yeah.
in order to have something that's bigger than what you thought it would be or where you want it to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely been interesting, but
you've overcome those challenges, which is phenomenal.
And you learn a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
If you were to give one piece of advice to a younger individual who is maybe, or even older individual, doesn't really matter, someone who's looking to maybe create some sort of community base, like what you did, what would you tell them?
I think for me, it was definitely getting out in the community, meeting people, going to other events, figuring out like who is your target audience, who do you want to work with. That's been huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Still, networking, it's who you know that's going to support you at the end of the day, because relationships are everything. Whether you run a business or not, if you don't keep good relationships, when there's a problem, who are you going to call that's going to help you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I'm dealing with a flooding somewhere, so I'm looking at who are the contacts do I have? The people that help me the most are the ones that I flowed power to, whether I invested in their business or I was helping them or maintain a good relationship with them. Those are the people that are going to show up for you.
For sure.
So you need that when you're starting a business, for sure. And also the other thing I would say is don't sacrifice your marriage or your kids or your health. Like you do have to create boundaries, because the to-do list, as you probably know, there's always more.
Yep. Even when you think you're done.
And sometimes you just have to handle the repercussions if you don't get something done on time, if you think it's greater to spend that time with your spouse, if they're going to be happier.
Right.
There's trade-offs. We have to think of priorities. I could say I haven't always done that, right? And then
a lot of people definitely have maybe made the wrong decisions, and it's definitely hard to kind of figure out the priorities.
It's hard.
And sacrificing.
Totally.
Yeah. That's still difficult. I don't like making sacrifices.
I know. You want to do it all, but there's only so many hours.
Right? We're only superhuman for a minimal amount of time. So you've created Modern Day Wife. You're the founder of Modern Day Wife. So for anyone who is not familiar with Modern Day Wife, what is it? So just kind of let's talk about that.
So it's a great question. So I run this business with our co-founder, whose name is Meagan Elieff. So there's two Megans. We're both blonde. And she lives in the United States and I live here in Canada, which is really great. So I did just want to say that. But Modern Day Wife essentially is a community for the modern woman. You don't have to be married. Again, I wasn't married when I started it even. But it's there to help support that woman who's trying to thrive in her career, home life, and relationships. So she's a go-getter. She's someone that wants to get things done, and she wants to have a support system. But the other really fun thing is we are heavily event-based.
Love that.
So we do events across North America. We do about 6 to 8 big ones per year, which is fantastic. And it's a reason to get
6 to 8.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We have one per year and it kills me.
We just had one in August in Scottsdale. We have October 25th here in Toronto at the W Toronto.
Right.
Then there's November 22nd in Los Angeles, and then February there's New York next year. So there's a lot. But what I was going to say is it's an opportunity to get dressed up. We definitely bring the glamour at the events, the fun. There's a fashion show. There's a celebrity panel, speaker panels, brand experiences. So great companies will pop up. You can get makeup touch-ups, hair touch-ups, find your next best product. So it's a great resource for someone who wants to build their network, but also have fun. And then we have a magazine, we have a podcast, a digital community, and then we do a subscription type of box at Christmas.
You mentioned that. That's exciting. You guys have all of these avenues within this, like Modern Day Wife. So is it membership based, or how does that work?
So there's a membership for online. So you can pay for the digital membership and you get access to webinars.
Got it.
So we have every month, every week, or every 2 weeks a webinar. You get discounts on different things. But no, you can just buy a ticket. And it's also heavily, which is great and really fun, influencer focused too.
Okay.
So every event we have 200 influencers who come, which is so
That's
fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a great way to get a greater word of mouth on the events, really fun content and social media content. And then the brands obviously love the coverage too. But you can also just be a mom, a wife, a corporate girl, you name it. Anyone can attend the event.
That's amazing the way that that's set up. So with everything you're doing with that, have you run any into any challenges with as you're growing out Modern Day Wife?
Yes. It's like there's like challenges all the time. I mean, I think the interesting thing with running a business is that every event we make a mistake, right? I mean,
it's a common thing, right?
Yeah. Every project there's a mistake.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we get it pretty perfect, but in life, every day, there's some mistakes that get made. You try for perfection.
Trial and error.
So we say, okay, you make the mistake once and then you correct it. So every event we do get better, or every project we do get better, because we can look back and see, like, okay, what did I do wrong?
Right.
If the mistake keeps happening, then it's okay, what's actually going on? Who's not doing their job? Or are we not following a policy in a proper way, right?
Right.
But I think, as you expand, the key thing that I've realized is it's so important to service, your customers and clients.
For sure.
Like when someone's paying you for a product or paying to be at the event, it's important that they receive everything that we said we were going to do.
Yes, the deliverables, for sure.
Because if you don't, it always comes back in a negative way.
Yes.
So always make it right if it's not right in the beginning. And then I think the other thing too is intuition is huge. Like I think as a woman, right? Sometimes you have a thought and you ignore it. Why did I ignore that?
Right, yeah.
And then you don't act on it, and then there's a problem. So really trying to slow down enough to be conscious of those things, because there's always situations where, for example, thought about electricity in the venue.
Okay.
What vendors need electricity? Assumed one vendor didn't, but had a thought that they might, but ignored it. And then they do need electricity, right?
Yes.
Then they're upset about their location. They don't have the electricity. It takes longer to solve. They're unhappy. They want a refund, right?
But all these things just snowball. Whereas like if I had just listened to that initial thought, you would have missed all of that.
Happens in life all the time. Even in Paris, like I got to go through the pageant and I thought about something that maybe my husband wouldn't like doing, and I thought about canceling it, and then I didn't, and then we went to it and he didn't like it. And so I was thinking to myself, why did I not just cancel that activity, right? It's small things, but it can prevent problems.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Definitely. And problems are not what we need, I think, as like moms, wives, just women on a daily basis. We can avoid that as much as we can, because a lot of our own personal issues, again, are snowballing effects.
That's right.
That affect everyone around you, or one decision that wasn't made or is made. So I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You sound like you're dealing with a lot. So with your Modern Day Wife, like how big is your team?
So right now we have, I guess it's more a team of 8.
Oh, okay.
So it's definitely substantial. And that's also a great way for someone who's starting a business is to figure out how to delegate or scale.
Right.
For me, I used to manage a fashion show. That was one of my jobs. But I knew, okay, Meagan, you want to have kids. You're not going to be able to do this. You need to start planning. So
sacrificing.
Yes. Over a year and a half ago, I started to vet and work on a team to replace myself. So now I don't do the fashion show. And it's actually better because someone else has this opportunity to do what they love within our business. So you have to think about that too. And I think sometimes where people get stuck having to do everything is they're not willing to let someone else do something.
Yes.
Which can be scary because they might not do it how you were going to do it.
That's a fear that I run into all the time.
Right? It's so true. But this is my stable piece of data. I say, okay, I'm willing for them to go through making the mistake, and I'm okay with correcting it once if I have to get the better final product.
Of course.
But you have to let other people try, or else you're going to be in the business forever. And that's just not something that I
especially with wanting kids on the way.
Yeah, you have to let go of the ropes a little.
Yes.
So we have, to answer your question, there's a fashion show director, a manager of the show. We have someone that does our designs for our events, our decor build outs, runs the events themselves. Then we have a full-time administrative individual on the team, and then 2 full-time salespeople.
Oh, okay.
And then my business partner.
Nice.
And me.
It's a pretty solid team that you have.
Yeah. And then a part-time social gal. But it wasn't like that. We built our business on internships,
right?
Actually.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great opportunity for people who are looking to get into that. And it's not too much a common thing. A lot of time people are just like doing internships at, you know, whether it's banks or whatever it is. But this is completely different.
Yeah.
And a great opportunity.
Yeah. We had 14 interns at once.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we would get things done in the beginning. It is a lot to manage them, but the one gal that works with us full time now, she was an intern 4 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so good for her.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So something when you're building out a community, sometimes people can struggle with is keeping the community strong. So how did you guys like execute that? So you guys are, what did you say, 4 or 5 years running now?
Yeah.
So to keep that strength going.
Well, I think the big thing is to not change what you're doing.
Got it.
I mean, it's so easy. For example, my business partner texted me this idea to do something different. And it's not that it's bad, but it's not what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes you think that there's going to be another solution that's going to make it better. But it's not always the case because it's like, what was the original idea founded on that people liked and why did they come to that?
Right.
I think that's with any brand, right? I mean, you see sometimes BlackBerry. I just watched the BlackBerry movie.
There's a movie
on BlackBerry.
What?
Which is from here, right? But they changed what they were doing to make something to compete with the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see it's almost a downfall of their business because they decide to do something that was completely off purpose as to why people followed them in the first place and bought their product. So I think you have to think about, okay, how are we going to expand, but how are we keeping that purpose?
The same love still there.
Exactly. Yeah. And also making people feel important.
Right.
Giving free things sometimes, doing extra things complimentary for those people that have been with us for a long time.
Right.
Taking them out, whatever it needs to be. There's a core group of ladies who've supported us from the beginning. So we give them extra perks.
Right.
Because they do deserve they deserve it. They deserve it. And so you have to remember, even though it's hard because it's busy, everyone's so busy, but finding ways to make people also feel valued and important is important because people's feelings do matter.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you can see that. You start to realize who's actually going to show up for you at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
So there is a level of responsibility in taking care of those community members too and finding ways to stay connected with them.
Absolutely. Keeping that community going.
Yeah.
I see that. And that's also super important for your team as well. Because I mean, if your team sees how respectful you're being with even just like community members, it reflects on them too.
Oh,
people don't put that together a lot of the time.
100%. The best thing my husband ever told me is negativity up, positivity down. Because I've seen it. It's so true. Like when you start to be negative to people that work under you, meaning talking bad about clients or customers or sharing negativity, their viewpoint and their actions will change and they're not going to respect you. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's so accurate. I think a lot of people, especially like people that I've worked with in the past, they kind of miss that. And there's that huge disconnect there.
Yeah.
But I mean, like how you treat somebody is going to go full circle anyways, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't run into that. So
I know. I try to be nice to everyone. Because,
try to.
You know,
sometimes people don't deserve it though, I have to say, right, Robbie? Some people are not the nicest.
Well, it's true. Some people treat you not nice in business. Trust me, I know. I've experienced it. And you want to treat them that way back. But I'm like, sometimes you have to obviously stick up for yourself and have ethics presence, meaning not letting people walk all over you, but at the same time, taking the higher road.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting topic of conversation.
Oh, definitely. Right? So that kind of is a good spinoff that I want to get into with the Miss International 2024. Yeah. Now, I'm like, I am not a pageant girl whatsoever. I mean, no one in my world is. No one in my social circle is. But it's so funny because when I think of like pageantry and I think of that world, my immediate thought is, you know, girls who aren't nice, girls who are judgy, that kind of stuff like that. But like after meeting you and talking to you, and it's like everything that I was raised on, knowing that like those girls are, you know, they're stush and all that kind of stuff too, is complete opposite.
Yeah.
So you going into the pageant world, what were some things that you ran into that maybe were going with like stereotypes and that kind of stuff? Because this is fresh for you as well, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it was your first time ever.
Yes, I had never done a pageant before.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend who did it
Mhm.
and she actually won, which is amazing. And she said to me, you should do this. You have a great platform. It's for married women. I think you'd be an excellent fit for doing it.
Yeah.
And I said, Look, I've never done a pageant. I don't know how to walk in heels. I don't know how to turn and flip down the stage. Come on. And she said, no, I mean, the community is great. It's really about showcasing the accomplishments of married women, what you're doing, how you're working with your family, your husband, and heavily platform based. And what that means is every contestant who's a part of the pageant has something that they're passionate about, which is their platform, their cause point. What are they doing to make a difference in the community? So mine was Modern Day Wife.
Of course.
So talking about...
And it fits perfectly.
Oh, it was so perfect. Yeah. Talking about building strong women, leaders, people that are actively doing things to make a difference. So that was nice because I could showcase what my business was. But going into it, once I said yes, I realized, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. So I definitely did get a walking coach, and I'm still not perfect, but I'm willing to keep practicing, an opposing coach, because you realize as a woman myself who worked corporately and who's busy, you're kind of always on the go. You're not really moving your body in this feminine way. So that was actually the biggest confront for me. I mean, I remember being in the gym training on how to walk in heels, and I was getting so upset, like triggers.
Yep.
I was like, why am I getting so upset about this? But I just wasn't that good. Like, I realized I was awkward in my own body. I'm not...
Things that you've never even realized.
That's what I mean. Like, my hips aren't moving that great. My arm is moving funny. And that's why I'm up for the challenge, because I said to my walking coach, we need to start training again, because I've noticed a difference in myself since we stopped in July. Right. Like, I'm not as confident. I'm not as feminine. Like, that drilling it, just that posture, everything, it does change you. So that's one thing that I'll say, doing the pageant alone for that reason was amazing. So then you get
eye-opening.
Totally. Learned so much about myself. Then you get there, and I had the same thing. I'm like, are these girls going to be mean? What is going to happen? Am I going to have the worst time of my life? But everyone there was so amazing. And I think it's because they have their own lives.
Yep.
They're married. They have kids. They're not eyeing you up like, what are you wearing? There wasn't any of that. It was actually really weird. I'm like, am I in Stepford Wives or what is happening? I'm in pageant land. But they were all people that I could be best friends with.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And tough competition. I remember calling my husband being like, I don't think I'm going to win. I was like, there's girls here that have been doing this for years. They're all amazing, but I'm having the best time of my life, and I don't even care because this pageant changed me.
Right.
And he was like, hello? Like, who am I talking to? But he's like, that's great. So for me, it was worth the investment. Like, I'm definitely happy that I won, but just understanding that there's a whole other world of pageantry with really cool people and really great couples, because you meet the other spouses, you meet the husbands, you walk on stage with your husband, which is so much fun.
I love that. I saw the video that you had posted, those photos or something. It was beautiful.
So special and so romantic and so great for your marriage, that it just is this really great opportunity that I think more women should take, because even people say, oh, you want a beauty pageant. Yes, it is a beauty pageant, but there's much more to it than that. And they are looking for that person that's actually making a difference, and everyone there is doing that. So
that's amazing.
So much fun.
And I can imagine you've been able to grow the community even more now with Modern Day Wife, just from that alone.
Yeah, it's been fun to integrate it. There's some girls coming to this event in Toronto. We're going to do a podcast, so it's an opportunity too for the title holders, is what you get called. So any title holder that is currently running for next year or was with me last year, they can come and they can promote their cause and what they're doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's your plan for the future in regards to pageantry?
Yeah. I mean, I have this whole year to do stuff. So I was like, if you want to do anything, I definitely want to plan some local stuff here, which is exciting.
That's awesome.
I want to do cookie decorating for a girls club. I need to work on that for Christmas. That's one of my ideas.
That's awesome.
But I have something going on with Dress for Success on October 15th. They're doing their annual event in Toronto. So there's definitely like a lot of different PR and promotional activities that I'll continue to do through the year. And then I don't know what the future holds. I probably wouldn't run in another pageant because I just love this system so much. That's another thing you realize, there's all different types of systems. And so my heart is definitely belongs to international pageants. That's the system that I'm in. So I would stay involved though. I would be a judge. I would 100% stay connected
somehow.
I'm like, I'm a pageant girl for life now.
Like you finally have the stamp,
right? I was like, if I have girls, maybe they'll want to do it. You never know, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's something that I'm sure that would be exciting. So if you end up having a daughter one day, you can get her into the pageant world too.
Yeah.
And now that she would be obviously very popular because her mom was Miss International.
I know.
2024. Like that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's really cool. So
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So during the running, like how many ladies were you up against during that process?
So there was 45 that were a part of our group.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the Delta outages and the shortages. Wow. With the flights.
Oh yes, back in like July.
Yeah. So it was during that week. So some girls didn't make it. And it was also total chaos.
Yeah.
Like this is the other thing about life, right? You have to push through. The day that I was trying to get to the pageant, all the flights are canceled. The airport's crazy. They're said to me, you're not going to make your connecting flight. I was flying from Tampa to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm like, fine. I put the money out. I booked like a first class ticket for another flight. And I said, whatever, it's just money. I'm getting to this pageant.
Yeah.
Long story short, I made it on that connecting flight. And then someone at Delta was kind enough to refund me that other flight that I spent extra money on. So it all worked out because I just committed. I feel like that's a Grant Cardone saying. Because he says that, right?
Yeah.
I just went all in. I was like, whatever, I'm getting there. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always bumps and hiccups along the way. But
for sure.
So that was interesting. What was happening when I was going on, but there was 42 of us. Yeah, 42 of us made it.
Still won.
Yeah. So
that
was fun.
During that, because I don't know anything about it, were you provided feedback as to why the judges ended up selecting you as the winner, or like do you get that information?
You don't. Like you could always maybe ask. I didn't ask because I said to myself, I just want to enjoy it.
Yes.
It's definitely like a very fair system, which is really interesting. I think what helped me the most was the fact that I public speak a lot with Modern Day Wife.
Got it.
I knew going into it, I have a great platform. I'm going to go and have fun all week long. Like that was my goal, where some girls, you could see that the energy did shift. However, everyone was still nice. But when it came to rehearsals and it was like, it's competition time.
Oh, gosh,
Game face came on and got serious. So I knew I'd have to be myself on the stage. I knew I wasn't the best walker. I wasn't going to be doing twirls down the runway, but I knew I had stage presence and still looked great.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, if I can nail that and be so comfortable out there. And I was, and I think what made me most comfortable was that my family was there.
I love that.
Cheering for me.
Yeah.
That's another thing we're talking about, community, like that they actually showed up and were there and were so loud. I remember thinking to myself, I am just going to blow them away and have so much fun and do my own thing.
Right.
So that's really what I did. And then when it came to the on-stage interview question, because basically you compete 2 nights. So the first night, everyone competes. Okay. You go into the competition the first night with 50% of your score already predetermined from interviews you did earlier in the week with the judges.
Interesting. Okay.
And then it's 25% is for your fitness and 25% is for your evening gown walk. Okay, that's Friday night. Then Saturday you come back and 15 girls make the top 15.
Okay.
And you recompete in evening gown, fitness, really fun. And then it's on stage interview question and your platform statement, which is you've already memorized. But then you do get asked a question that you don't know what they're going to ask you. So long story short of this is that I had to go first. I got picked like number 1 for top 15, which means you have to go first for the interview. You walk out first for the fitness.
You set a
you
huge
walk
example.
out first for like the evening gown. And I thought to myself, oh God, I'm going first. But then I changed it and I was like, well, if I win, I have to go first anyways.
Exactly.
And that is how mindset really can get you, right? Because sometimes your mind is, you suck, you're awful, you're going to lose. And I kept putting it there. I just changed the thought of it. And I did well answering the question. And I think that really helped me because you have to answer the question.
What was your question?
It was, how would I expand the modern day wife community internationally to people that don't know about it?
Right. That's a great question. Let's answer it right now. I want to hear that.
So for me, I remember at the time I blacked out kind of.
Of course.
I don't even remember what I said.
Terrifying.
Afterwards, I was like, did I do a good job? I don't know. But I remember saying, for me, I would focus on taking international pageants and modern day wife and blending the communities together, using those 2 platforms to host new events, to promote, through my podcast, through the digital membership, and making sure that people know about international pageants and they know about modern day wife. So working together is what I talked about specifically more, because it's the truth. It makes it easier to expand when you go in the same direction.
You're kind of actively
doing that.
Start doing that anyway.
Exactly. So, they've been at the event, so it's been perfect.
That works out.
It is funny though, after the fact, when you think about what did I even say, right?
Just rambled. It worked out though.
Yeah, and you only have 30 seconds to answer the question.
Oh gosh.
So then the music goes like the Oscars, and so you start. You're in your mind. You're also consciously thinking about that. I only have 30 seconds to answer the question.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
So much fun though. I highly recommend. There's some ladies here that should do it. It's great. It's good. And you get outside your comfort zone. You try something new.
Yeah.
You just be yourself.
So you seem to be really good at that though. Like going out of your comfort zone, becoming vulnerable and trying something new. I mean, you did that with, going to London, right? And then also starting Modern Day Wife. So for someone who has the fear of even just trying something new. I know we were talking about the bit of advice that you provided earlier, but let's spin it a bit.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to somebody, male or female, and they're just terrified to try something new, you're obviously good at that. What would you tell them?
You need to take time out of the equation, meaning sign up or do it right then and there. Find a way to commit to it. Because that's, when you think about something, like when people say in sales, like, I'll think about it. Sometimes they come back and say yes, and you're like, you're not coming back because your mind is going to tell you otherwise.
Right.
Like, that's horrible. You can never do that. You suck. Like, you're not fit enough for that. You're not pretty. You'll never make it. Why would you even think about it? Come on. Like, we all, even like this week is like, like I was totally going through that this week when I was thinking about the situation I had with my house. Like, why didn't you suck? You didn't book the right insurance. This is your fault. No. Like, horrible, right? And then I'm like, why am I listening to this? Like, why am I doing this? You just need to take action. That's the best thing to do, is always just take action. Like when you don't feel good, when things aren't going right, put yourself in the right direction. So say you are afraid to public speak. Okay, good. Like search up Toastmasters.
Right.
Book something. Find a friend to go with you. But if you don't actually do an action towards the goal, you're not going to get the goal.
You're just going to sit in that fear.
Like, it's one thing to say, I'm going to think about joining the pageant. I'll think about it. You're not going to join. I'm like, okay, get me on the call with the director. Let me fill out the application.
Right.
Right.
So when you were in the process of making that decision, was that a quick decision, or did you put a lot of thought into it beforehand?
It was more quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay,
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it is scary. Yeah. And then I was like, oh God, what if I don't win? Like someone referred me and I'm like, but then I thought to myself, I don't win. I don't care. I still won in my eyes because it made me do other things. Like it made me more confident. It made me walk better. It made me push my social media more. Right. So there's only going to be one winner. I mean, I have some people on my network who are joining and I love them all. I would want all of them to win, but only one of them is going to win next year.
Yeah.
So even whoever doesn't win, that's okay though, because their experience will be equally as amazing.
Right.
Because there'll be something for sure that they learn that they didn't know before.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
every experience you're going to go through anyways, you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Well, congratulations on winning
you.
Miss International 2024.
Thank you.
So it'll be nice to see how you possibly might be involved for the following year. It'd be awesome if you ended up becoming a judge or something.
Well, next year I get to crown the winner, which is really cool.
I love that.
So maybe for 2026,
yeah,
I could be a judge or something. But yes, I get to crown the winner.
That's awesome.
On stage.
That's phenomenal.
So
cool. So everything that you've learned with this experience as being Miss International 2024, how has that inspired you to change up maybe a couple things with like your modern day wife?
I mean, I think what I liked was, it's actually interesting because when I went there, I'm always have like the business mindset of how they do things, right? How are they connecting and how are they orchestrating what they're doing? I mean, I loved the very intense community feel and how like they're very focused and strategic on the type of women that come into their network, right? And also like the type of brands that they work with. So I even thought for Modern Day Wife, right, too, like sometimes it's better to think about who's the exact target market, what are the exact brands you want to have, instead of just taking anyone and everyone. You know, there's this opportunity to focus a bit more clearly on what is the brand vision.
Really kind of niche it down.
Yeah. So I was like, I love that. I also realized too that they're very focused on the purpose of the pageant. What is the purpose? So even for Modern Day Wife, like I was saying, what is the purpose of Modern Day Wife? What are we doing with the company? Why did I start this idea? Where are we going? Right? You need to it's good to see how other brands keep that. And I love that this pageant is focused on marriage and promoting marriage as being positive. And obviously some people are not married, which is totally okay. Or even my business partners going through a divorce and separation. So it's fine. Like these things happen. There's seasons of life. It's real life. But on the other side of it, it's like, okay, healthy relationships are important in whatever capacity. So I want to promote that across the board. And I love that the pageant really reignited that purpose, which was the main purpose for Modern Day Wife too.
Right.
So
interesting.
Quite interesting, right?
Now, speaking of like spouses, partners and stuff, is there an aspect of Modern Day Wife where it involves spouses and partners?
Well, this is an interesting thing because at the beginning, the first event was co-ed.
Okay.
And then we changed that. And it was more just women focused. Men can come too, but the first actual event for Modern Day Wife, it was a date night ticket. So we promoted like coming with your spouse, and there were things that men liked too at the event, and it was networking and drinks, and there were speaker panels. There was a fashion show still too, but highly encouraged couples. And so I wish there was more of that. During COVID, we did some virtual events where we had couples speak, a power couple segment.
I love that.
So it's kind of to the question you asked me before, coming back to, well, what was the integrity of the brand in the beginning? So it would be nice to bring that back, but also sometimes in business, and I'm sure you made that decision too, it's what sells, you know, what makes money. And you end up going in that direction a little bit more.
Yeah. And we were talking about that, where it's like to change things up or just keep it how it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of definitely a difficult decision to make, because heaven forbid you make a change and it, you know, goes the absolute wrong way.
That's right.
And ruins your brand or deteriorates it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'd ever consider? Maybe, you know, you have the Modern Day Wife, but then what about Modern Day Husband? And you can kind of create a spin-off brand for that.
Yeah. We've talked about it too, like Modern Day Man.
Yeah.
You know, there's all different types of things. So yeah, we've looked at it. I mean, I think a men's community, if it was very sexy and chic and cars and there's like lots that could be done. So
that sounds exciting.
You never know.
That could be in a goal maybe one day.
Yeah, exactly.
5-year plan.
Exactly.
Give or take. Okay, so if someone is looking to grow a community or get started, give them 3 pieces of advice, like 3 really good golden nuggets on even how to begin.
Well, first you need the name or the purpose. Like, what is the type of community you want to create?
Right.
Because it could be real estate, could be naturopath community, it could be a women's networking group, it could be, you know, women who brunch or women who walk, moms who walk with strollers. There's all types of communities. So you find the name, you figure out what you're promoting, and get a logo. That's what I did first. That's basically step 1. Step 2 is you have to pick a date. So plan the launch date, super easy, pick a date, do it. And then 3, invite all of your friends that you know. So your first event's always going to be based off of those connections you already have.
Yes, for sure.
Friends, their friends, sisters, family members, teachers, other businesses, and just do it. I mean, the first event that I did had 50 people.
That's still a good number.
Right? But now you think there's like 1,000 or 1,200. So you just start. It's basically the starting point. That's all you actually need. And an Instagram, you can get that right away too. You don't have to have a website. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have any of that. You can
just get started. Simplify it.
Yeah, you can use Eventbrite.
There you go.
Or Ticket-Tailor to host your first event.
Interesting.
So that's what I would do. And then you just go from there. So.
Have you had anyone reach out to you and kind of ask that question of like, I want to do this. How do I do this?
Yeah, a lot. And then a lot of times this happens. It's business. It doesn't matter. I'm like, good, go create what you want to create. People will come in. They'll work within Modern Day Wife, or they'll be a sponsor, or they'll be an influencer. And then a few months down the road, you see them doing their own event. You know,
maybe you inspired them.
Exactly. Right. Their own event, same location, whatever it might be. And it's like, that's great too. Right. There's always like, that's the whole point you see of people doing it. So a lot of times that happens. But there's 2 ways you can look at it. It's like you can either create your own, or you can join forces with someone already doing something. It just depends on what you want.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great. Like I'm very open. I think sometimes people are scared to share their advice or knowledge, but at the end of the day, more people should be successful, and no one's going to do what you do exactly. Because they can't, because it's your idea. Like no one's going to create a show just like yours because you're the host of it. Yeah. It's going to always be different, right? Oh, that's okay.
It's okay.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So looking into the future.
Yes.
I know you mentioned the goal is, eventually have children and stuff.
Yeah.
We already are dog moms. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Love that. And what are the 5-year goal plan for Modern Day Wife? What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us right now, it would be great to grow the digital membership more.
Okay.
Right. Having like more of it. People signing up on a monthly income, being a part of that.
Right.
Doing events in different cities would be fantastic. There could be a TV show, a product line. There's lots of different options, right, that we've been talking with. So you never know.
We'll see what happens. Have you guys considered taking it over to like the Europe world?
Yeah.
Right now it's just States and Canada, right?
Yeah, we talked about it. Like we had Dubai present itself before. We also like London or France, but it also comes down to like, these are things you start to realize in business too. And I think maybe you recognize it. Like sometimes you think, oh, big cities, or if a celebrity's doing it, or if I get celebrity status, things will be great. But at the end of the day, you kind of like, is that most impactful and meaningful, right? Does it really change anything? It kind of doesn't. So you also have to decide like, why am I doing this, right? Am I doing it because I want to impact community there? If that's the answer, then yes, I would say 100% let's do it.
Right.
But you also have to decide like, what's the main purpose line of it?
Of course. And what's the key takeaway for attendees or members that are going to get out of it?
Yeah. Because I was like, if you're doing something just for status of saying you did it, I realized that it never feels good.
No. You don't, honestly, in my opinion, you don't get too much out of that anyways.
No.
Because that 15-minute of fame is just going to go down anyways.
Yeah.
So
it's better to like just do it because you know it's going to make the impact. I mean,
I
would love to do an event in London because I love that city, right? And I think there's a lot of people there that would love it too, but we'll see.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like a good plan that you should implement.
Cool.
Eventually.
Okay.
So if someone wants to reach out to you and have a conversation or learn more about Modern Day Wife, where can they find you?
Perfect. Well, definitely on Instagram. For my personal, it's Meagan Elieff. And for Modern Day Wife, it's the Modern Day Wife. And then the websites are the same. I'm most active on Instagram. It's my favorite platform.
Awesome.
So you can DM me or email me. It's all linked there. I'd love to connect. Pageant, business, family, whatever you need. I'm here to chat.
And specifically for Modern Day Wife, you mentioned that you do have a couple upcoming events.
Yes.
So you want to throw them a bit more information on that
yes.
so they know where to find it and how to get involved.
Perfect. So October 25th at the W Toronto, which is in Yorkville. We're doing an event there. It's called awesome. What She Said.
Love
You're
that.
coming.
I am coming.
It's from 3:30 until 9:30. It's a Friday. And so we've actually partnered with W Hotels to produce this event. The What She Said title is their actual Women's Global Series event.
Oh, I love that.
So we've worked with the W Hotel Group for 3 years, going into our 4th year, which is amazing. So we'll be co-producing this event. It's going to be a blast. And then if you're in LA, the next event is November 22nd at the SLS Beverly Hills Hotel. So that'll be really cool. I think that's also a Friday. And both are on our Instagram and website for tickets.
Awesome.
But definitely come to Toronto. I was like, it's going to be fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming today. This
Thank
has been
you.
such an awesome conversation. And it's nice to know everything that you are up to and in your entire life, because like you have such a huge social following and everything. Oh. So getting on this personal level with you, I've really appreciated every second of it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course.
I had the best time.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys next week. I think I have Rochelle Parent coming in next week. She's a very successful real estate agent with the Woolcott team, and she's doing a lot of stuff too. So we'll see you next week. And again, thank you, Meagan, for joining.
Thank you.
See you guys.